A very pleasant good morning. Excuse me. One more time. A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Magandang umaga po, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon at magandang gabi. Welcome to Crossfire, and together with me is the maestro, Paglinawan. This is Rita Gadi. This afternoon, we are going to go through several concerns that have arisen over the past week. Every Saturday, there's always something interesting that we are bringing out. And all of this is not just for our information or for any analysis, but this is also very important for us to look into because things are changing quite fast. The political landscape, particularly, the geophysical landscape, likewise, although if we are going to quote Mao Zedong, everything else could change but except geography. So let's see how this goes. Because sometimes we look at the map, if we are cartographers, we could really look at the minutiae of all those little islets, islands, and of course the currents. All of this is part of the navigational highway. And as far as we are concerned, that's on the western side of our country where you have the South China Sea. But those waters, if you really try to trace it all the way up north, well, you go as far as the Aleutian Islands, connecting Alaska to the mainland of the of the Soviet Union, or what we now know as the Russian Federation. Then you have the port of Vladivostok going all the way down to the Korean Peninsula, to Japan, and then of course this is our area now where you have the South, how do we call this? Before it was the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, now it's the ASEAN, all the way down where you have the passageway of the other countries coming from the other side of the Pacific. In fact, just recently, our president welcomed Australia as part of the AUKUS, and gladly, with a smile on his face, saying that, oh, well, now Australia is joining also all of those that are actually navigating or passing by or protecting or whatever else you would call it, the South China Sea. Don't call it the West Philippine Sea because that's a terminology that is just recently invented. It is not in any other map anyway. So here we are at this particular stage, at this particular time, and many things likewise are evolving. The most recent of which, of course, is Bado. They call it a demotion, but actually it's just the removal of an adjective. You had the former president, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and now is no longer the, is there an adjective beyond senior deputy speaker of the House, and now she's just an ordinary congressman. Is that how it goes? And then you had a couple of hours immediately after that, you had the irrevocable resignation of the vice president from the Lakas CMD. That's the Lakas Christian Muslim Democratic Party. But nonetheless, she also said that she will continue to work with our president and that her commitment for the benefit of the people is also part of the commitment she had when she was already on the campaign trail, and now that she has assumed the role of vice president. So many things have been happening. And as I said, if you are a navigator or a cartographer, Ado will be coming up with some of the discussions on other channels of passageway between the northern part of our country and Taiwan. We always speak of the Taiwan Straits, of the Taiwan Channel, but there is another channel that is also very critical. And all the way down south, you have the Molucca channel there. That is why Timor-Este has become very important. Remember, Timor-Este came up because America wanted it to be also part of the critical passageway of all the other big ships that are passing through. So, ang dami ko ng introduction, but this is Crossfire actually. So, Ado?
Well, Lakas CMD is actually third or fourth generation lakas. It started with President Fidel Ramos. Actually, it only started as lakas loob. No? Because isa lang naman ang original member niya, si Fidel Ramos. But Fidel Ramos needed a political party that would define his vision. And on his exit, this was beaten by the Partido Masa Pilipino. And after Erap Estrada, and after Erap Estrada was deposed, and the ascendancy of Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo came into play, Lakas again came back as Lakas Kampi. Kampi, of course, are those people who are supporting Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, while the Lakas were the originals of Fidel Ramos. And then again, it meant a defeat in 2010 under Noynoy Aquino's Liberal Party. And it had a resurrection in the 2022 election. But let us go into the genesis of the power play in the 2022 elections. The real power belonged to Kampi's running of the, if you remember, Sara Run campaign that was originally a concept of the Kampi people, the people of Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. So the very first coalition that formed it was basically Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. This is following, I'm sorry, let me amend it a little bit. This is following the defeat of the Liberal Party with the PDP of Digong Duterte, but Digong's term's only 6 years, and the most popular candidate was Sara Duterte. However, the mechanics changed as Amy Marcos came into play. This is a triumvirate of 3 women: Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, Sara Duterte, and Amy Marcos.
Wow.
And somehow, the equation changed because it became a Marcos Duterte ticket. Because Sara gave way to Bongbong Marcos. And because of that, the party of choice became Lakas, CMD, with Sara Duterte as chairman, and if I'm not mistaken, Martin Romualdez as president, and Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo as one of the power brokers. Translated into the lower house of Representatives, Martin Romualdez became the speaker, and they had to invent a position for Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo being the senior deputy speaker. Removing Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, therefore, who has served more or less as the power broker since the ending days of the Digong Duterte regime, is rather unfortunate, and I think a product of a political neophyte. I don't know what, except being a relative of Bongbong Marcos, Martin Romualdez has, and perhaps his wealth. But I would say that when it comes to politics, by virtue of this false false flag, if you may, for the party. He's a political neophyte. He doesn't.
Rookie.
And it seems that this thing is running from the left side of the Marcos administration in the executive up to the right side in the legislature. There is a seeming arrogance of power that is permeating. And the ugly head in the Congress just had its debut when Martin Romualdez, why am I saying Martin Romualdez? It is impossible for something. This could not be an accident. It is impossible that the speaker had nothing to do with it. But by his doing it, he failed on one important part of politics, and that is communication. It is very obvious na hindi nag-usap si Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo at si Martin Romualdez. Basta humirit na lang si Martin Romualdez dito. So, sabi nga nung iba, like Sal Panelo, for instance, walang utang na loob. Walang utang na loob. So, at alam naman natin sa ating katagulugan, ang hindi lumilingon sa pinanggalingan kung matinik ay malalim. Yan ang problema. so, Rita.
Yeah. That's one of the finest, not really an explanation, but the finest reading I have heard so far, Ado. And thank you for that. Kasi ang dami ng mga in-interview na supposedly mga political analysts.
Umiiwas sila. Alam mo, Rita, in a situation like this, iniiwas nilang mapahiya si Bongbong Marcos kasi magpinsan sila ni Martin Romualdez. And that is precisely one of the black eyes of this administration. You almost have a Marcos relative in every nook and corner. Rita.
Be that as it may, nakita naman natin na ganyan talaga ang nangyayari kahit na sa nakaraan. Sinasabi nga, well, there was a terminology, sinasabi walang kamag-anak, walang kaibigan, etc. Pero ganun pa rin. As a matter of fact, we saw what happened immediately after President Marcos. But during the time of the old man, of President Ferdinand Edralin Marcos, the only other relative that I know who was appointed was his brother. When we started, Pacifico, Dr. Pacifico Marcos. Wala na tayong ibang nadinig pa na nilagay na Marcos in any position. And that was not a political position. Being a doctor, he headed one of the grandmother, the grandmother of our PhilHealth now. That was Medicare. You remember how it was. And it was very well managed. It had the office there in Tomas Morato. So that was the only relative at the time. But anyway, after 86, with what happened was, ayun na, nagkalat na lahat ng mga kamag-anak din, ng mga sumunod-sunod ng mga presidente.
Hindi,
of course.
Mayroon pa sa Rita.
Sino pa?
Si Benta Marcos.
Yes. Of course. Not blood relation, but of course, his wife.
Pero,
yeah.
Sa appointment ni Pacifico, sa appointment ni Imelda, ngayon natin nakikita na ang dami palang nagawa ni Imelda Marcos. So, hindi yan nepotism.
Exactly.
Diba?
So, itong nangyayari ngayon, na pumapasok sa politiko, and not only in politics, but also in many other aspects like business, etc. and all. Ayaw ko nang ilabas pa kung ano pa yung mga tentacles ng ganyan. Ngunit sinasabi nga ni Ado, hindi ito kanais-nais na pangyayari at hindi sinasabing, marami nagsabi nga na magre-retire kaya daw tinanggal na siya si former President Arroyo. Ngunit sabi nga ni Ado earlier before the program, naku, ang lakas ng energy pa niyan. She's not yet on the verge of retirement at all. Pero may nabanggit ka which is quite interesting. And that's why I say that maybe we go back to Shakespeare. You have the opening scene where you have this women over a cauldron. Of course, sabi nga the three witches. Pero you see how powerful and the power play that they wove in and out of that play that Macbeth wrote, that Shakespeare wrote, and that was Macbeth. Sabi nga nung tatlo, bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. So doon na nagsisimula yung mga predictions nila. Anyway, so three women now. You have former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo there, and then you have Vice President Sara Duterte, and of course Senator Amy Marcos. So let's see how it goes from there. But there is something that we have to look into, and this is not to analyze, but simply to emphasize the words that were used by the Vice President. Do we have the statement here? Just so as you would see how carefully she has chosen the words so that they not only would express why she had an irrevocable resignation sa kanyang dito sa tinatawag nating Lakas CMD, yung partidong kung saan siya naging kandidata for the vice presidency, and this was just in the last campaign. So sinabi nga niya dito yung tungkol sa bakit siya umalis na sa Lakas, sapagkat sabi niya na what are we reading here? This is part of the state to announce my irrevocable resignation. Yes, can we move it a little further so you could see how she mentioned yung sabi, ayan, ito ang mahalaga sa kanyang sinabi. I am here today because of the trust of the Filipino people in me to lead and serve them and the country, and this cannot be poisoned by political toxicity or undermined by execrable political power play. Yun ang mahalagang statement na sinabi niya. Yan dalawang salita na yan. Political toxicity. Ang ibig sabihin, ang toxicity yung paglalason. It's poisonous. At yung sinabi niyang undermined by execrable political power play. Yung salitang execrable, mabigat din yan. Malignant ang ibig sabihin. Malignant at talagang detestable. So there you could see
curse,
that, oo. In fact, meron pa nga kung sa thesaurus yung titingnan niya execrable. Sabi nga, may voodoo pa yan. Parang yung sabi nga ni may sumpa. So that is how she looked at the movements of politics. Kaya kinailangan na kumalas siya doon sa partido na yon, kasi ayaw niya na ang kanyang paglingkod sa bayan ay magkakaroon ng bahid. Yan po ang we don't have to analyze. We only have to let those two words speak for themselves, because that is where it's all coming from. If we look at the general portrait of our current politics, talagang toxic at execrable. So tingnan niyo mabuti sa diksyonaryo ang ibig sabihin ng dalawang salita na yan at maiintindihan ninyo ang kasalukuyang nangyayari. Huwag na natin pang mag-speculate na ganito o ganyan. Ngunit yung pagkatanggal kay former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and then a few hours afterwards, yung pag-resign ng ating Vice President sa partido na yon, yan ang ibig sabihin yan. There is toxicity and it is execrable. So, basahin yung mabuti ang mga ibig sabihin ng salita niyan. Sabi nga ni Ado, meron na dito talagang nagkakaroon ng power play. At para bang, alam niyo yung parang sa Malacanang noon, na gumagalaw na ang foundations. This was something that was happening from 1983, nung nagkaroon ng assassination sa airport noon si former Senator Aquino, at nagkaroon ng hindi lang power play pero even sa mga galaw ng business ng mga mayayaman at lahat na yan, talagang nagkaroon ng parang, well, there was lindol, so to speak. So parang ganyan na maaga pa, it's only been a year, as a matter of fact, a year and just a couple of days. May 9th yung election natin a year ago, it's only May 20 now. Pero parang nagkakaroon na ng shifting of the sands underneath.
Well, yan ang buod ng libro ko, The Poverty of Power. Ano? Execrable.
Execrable. Execrable.
Kaya nga, poverty of power, corrupt, no? Bulok, no? At at EDSA 1, we all were hoping for the best, and yet what did we get? For 30 years, from 1986 to 2016. More and more of the same old, business as usual, corruption as usual, kabulukan. The post-president placed a nationalized power industry, energy, para pababain ang electric bill. Hindi lamang ng mga mamamayan, ng consumers, kung hindi, especially, yung mga industries, manufacturing industries, para dumami ang investors at dito na gumawa ng mga produkto nila. No? So, anong ginawa ng 30 years? Mula sa nationalized, pag-aari ng taong bayan with the subscribers as the owners, principal owners, serving national interest. It swung 180 degrees to a complete turnaround. And the power now is in the hands, once again, of the oligarchies. Yan po yung mga naghaharing puri that comprise only about 10%, maybe even less, of the Philippine population.
Grabe ito.
Ang rule of law, from 1986 to 2016, depende kung sino ang nakaupo. Pwede magtanggal ang presidente ng mga elected people sa local governments at across the board, mag-appoint ng officers in charge. Yan, mga kabansa. Maaaring sakutehin ng kung sino nakaupong presidente ang mga oil and exploration contracts and all that stuff. Mga bidding, rig, walang pagbabago. And finally, dumating sa kasukdulan na nagtanggal pa ng Supreme Court Justice ang kahuli-huli ang presidente na na-elect noong 2010 hanggang 2016. At marami pa mga skandalong hindi ko na iisa-isahin. Kaya noong 2016, ang taong bayan staged another kind of revolution. Noong 1986, kung ito ay revolution by the feet of people who went to EDSA, ito ho ay naging revolution through the ballot. Isa sa pinakamahinang kandidato, si Digong Duterte. Siya ang nagkamal ng pinakamataas sa boto. Sa kanyang simpleng platform of change. No? Real change. Dalawang salita. And we experience, nakita ng mga tao kung paano isang Pangulo tupad sa kanyang pangako. We saw what real change meant from 2016 to 2022. And then a candidate comes in promising continuity of this real change. And not only that, of furtherance of the very vision of his father, Ferdinand Edwin Marcos Sr. Real change of Duterte. plus the visions of development of Marcos Sr. Pero, Rita, I'm sorry to say, 1 year na itong si Marcos Jr., wala ko nakikitang continuity, kundi continuity of poverty and more poverty. Continuity of colonialism in this country, continuity of cronyism with the oligarchies. And eto, nangyari na sa lower house of Congress. Continuity of the power play, the ugly power play that Filipinos are very known about.
So that's the sad part of our situation now, because remember, some time back, nagkaroon tayo ng programa na sabi nga natin, tinitingnan ko nga dito 10 junior months. Ibig sabihin, nagkaroon tayo ng parang summary na nangyari, 10 months.
Inventaryo.
Ngayon, isang taon na. At noon nga nasabi natin that, well, we were trying to look at the 10 months and now we're trying to find out after 1 year. Because here we have a leader. I would have to go back to many of the writings of several French political analysts. Si Jean Lacouture, for instance, ang sinabi niya that a leader could be chosen by history itself. Ito na yung historical name na ngayon ay ang ating Pangulo, because there was a Marcos I and now it's a Marcos Jr. So pag titingnan natin, he was shaped by this particular historical name. Ngayon, yung mga events that happened after his election, yung sinasabi nga ni Ado, tumutugma ba ito sa bit-bit ng history ng pangalan na yan? Ang dami kasing mga pwede pang ipagpatuloy na hindi na nga naisagawa after 1986. Yun ang malungkot. At yan ang masasabi ko na marahil bigyan pa natin ng konting panahon. Kaya sabi ko nga sa titulo ng ating programa, would you believe that we need a little more time, a little more patience, a little more understanding, that somewhere in the next few days, months, weeks, and months, and perhaps even before the end of his term, we will have already that ideal which we had 36 years ago. Ganito ako magsalita sapagkat kayo ay napinanganak na nung panahon nung matandang Marcos, ay siguro nakikita ninyo nung sa mga panahon na yon ay yung mukha ko ang nagsasalita tungkol sa mga events na kinocover ko na live. In other words, I was not a spokesperson, Ado. I simply covered the event as it is happening. Hindi na kailangan ikwento pa kung ano yung tungkol sa presidente na yon, sapagkat nakikita na ng taong bayan sa telebisyon at nadidinig na rin sa radyo kung ano yung event na yon. Yun ang trabaho ko, na i-broadcast lang sa television yung event actually. So yan, nakikita nyo, ilang dams yan tinayo. 38 dams, hydroelectric. Ilan ang tinayo ng mga karsada from north to south, mga airports, seaports, mga gusali, mga ibang programa. Yang pinag-uusapan ngayon, kagaya nga ng nasabi ni Ado, sana ay magkaroon ng yung binhi na andon ay sana ngayon ay tatanim ulit at lalaki, kagaya nga ng tinatawag natin itutuloy. Yang kadiwa, sabi nga, pinagbabalaki nga ng ating Pangulo sa kasalukuyan, 300 kadiwa stores all over the country. Ngunit hindi tindahan ang kadiwa, hindi yung nakikita natin na yung nakalatag yung mga nabibiling mga gulay at mga isda, mga karne. The kadiwa stores, you had to be a member. You had to apply to be able to purchase yung tinatawag na wholesale price, hindi retail. Halimbawa,
in other words, it was a system.
Yes, it was a system. Hindi lang basta nakalatag yun na parang palengke, parang talipapa. So, yun sana ang nakikita natin, and one very important.
Well, ito ay isang wake-up call sa ating Pangulo. Kung ito ay katulad ng statement niya, parang binabaliwala lang na, he is making the biggest mistake of his career. Ito ay isang wake-up call. hindi biro na mabastos ang isang former president ng Pilipinas, at dahil doon ay hindi biro na ang pinaka-influential na politiko ngayon sa ating bansa, si Sara Duterte, ay mag-resign sa the ruling, no? The majority party. At itong majority party na ito, Rita, I am promising you, in 1 year, magkukulaps yan. Kung ano man ang iniisip ni Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo at ni Sara Duterte, pag sumama pa dyan si Jaime Marcos, yan ang magiging bagong panuntunan sa real politics ng Pilipinas. 3 babae. No? In this case, hindi witches, wizards. No? Kasi punong-puno ng wisdom yung 3 na yan eh. At yan ang aking kasi same old eh. Walang pagbabago, mga kabansa. At saka, napupuno pa ng kontradiksyon ang mga nangyayari. Ako ay nahulog sa silya nung si Enrique Rason ay magdala ng isang laruan. Nagdala siya ng isang laruan, isang model ng oil rig, at pinipresent niya ito kay Presidente Marcos. Sabi ko, itong kastilang ito, huling-huli ang psychology ni Bongbong Marcos. Binibigyan niya ng laruan. Wala na nag-iisip. Ultimo si Rason, hindi niya naiintindihan na sa mga katulad ko, para niyang iniinsulto ang presidente dahil binibigyan niya ng laruan. Bakit? Galit na galit ako dyan. Hindi ba makakailanlaman ang mga MUPs natin, mga men and women in uniform personnel ng ating gobyerno, including kapulisan at kasundaluhan, ay binanata ni Ben Jokno at sinasabi nga hindi na pwede na sa budget manggaling ang inyong pensyon. Kailangan mag-contribute na kayo. In other words, maraming pundasyon ang umuga dyan, Maraming pundasyon ang umuga dyan. Para itong taong ito ay magsalita ng ganon nang hindi, palagay ko, hindi alam pa yan ng Pangulo. Marami ho kasi mga ngayon Diyos-Diyosan, mga maliliit na ang cabinet ho ngayon is being run with one demigod per secretary nangyayari. Kanya-kanya. So, dito sabi ni Ben Jokno, okay, hindi na pwede. Why? For the first time in our history, narinig ko ang word na fiscal collapse. So mga tuwid, kung bibigyan natin ng appropriation, ang pensyon ng mga uniform personnel na ating gobyerno, babagsak ang buong ekonomiya. Ano ang translasyon nito? Wala tayong kinikita. Wala tayong kinikita sa agrikultura, mababa ang ating trade, bagsak ang ating turismo, wala tayong produksyon, wala mga factories, wala manufacturing. Ang exchange ng goods napakabagal, kaya tumataas ang inflation. Tumataas ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Wala tayong pera. Pero mga kabansa, binigay ni Bongbong Marcos, next year pa ang expiration ng malampaya service contract. Pero ngayon pa man, binigyan niya ng 15 years extension si Enrique Rason. Ano ibig sabihin niya? Bakit hindi hinintay na yan ay matapos? Total, bukas naman ang mata, bukas ang tenga. Ni Enrique Rason, nang yan, ibili niya kay ang pangalan nito, yung yung Chinese na bumili niyan. Dennis Uy. Kay Dennis Uy. Mga kabansa. Kung hinintay niya na matapos ang kontrata at siya'y tumawag ng bidding, alam niyo ba ang estimate ng joining fees lamang sa bidding na yan na naaaring i-raise ng gobyerno? Halos umabot po ng 20 billion pesos. Wala silang pera. And yet, binibigay nila sa isang crony. Ha? Obvious na si Rason ay nag-contribute sa kandidatura ni Bongbong Marcos. Ganyan lang ba? Ha? Pamimigay natin, isang laruan lang ba? 20 billion? Oh, 20 billion. No, my friend, no, it's yours.
That's the little toy na pinag-uusapan ni Ado. It's a replica of the Malampaya oil exploration, whatever it is. But if we go back in time, that Malampaya contract has been under investigation and nothing has happened to it. Sapagkat sa dinami-dami ng mga lumalabas dyan na kinakailangan na sana sumunod sa ating constitution na 60-40, ang nangyari ay pumasok ang Shell, pumasok ang mga ibang oligarchs, pumasok ang sari-saring mga business investments hanggang sa ang natatanggap lang ng ating gobyerno na tayo, taong bayan, 10% na lang. Yang sinasabi ni Ado, that was under investigation, hindi nga natapos yung investigation na yon. Ngunit,
ang investigasyon na yan, bigyan natin ng detalya. Ha? Dinimanda sa hearing na ginawa ni William Gatchalian sa Senado. Nakita niya na yung pagbenta, no? Pagbenta niya, yan dapat ang gobyerno may option of first refusal. Wala. Diniretso ang benta from Chevron to Dennis Uy. Ha? Walang niha-nihono, ha? Sa anong konsiderasyon? At sinong gumawa ng desisyon? Isa hong nagngangalang Alfonso Cusi na overnight, mga kabansa, ay naging 6 billionaire dahil ang kanyang super ferry ay binili naman ni Dennis Uy. Wala bang kalukuhan doon? Kaya si William Gatchalian nagsampa sa ombudsman against Alfonso Cusi of graft and corruption and coming up with a deal that is severely prejudicial to the interests of the country. Oh, meron na yan. Yung Malampaya na yan, meron na yan bahid ng korupsyon. Ha? Noong si Cusi nandyan.
and Cusi is now our current Secretary of Energy.
Dati.
Di ba?
Dati. Si Lutilla na ngayon.
Si Lutilla ngayon. Okay, so yan ang kaysayan yan. Yung sinasabi ko nga din, Italian ni Ado, nagkaroon ng investigasyon, yung pala talagang umakyat na yung kaso na yan sa nangyari. Anyway, pinag-uusapan nga yung investments na yan. Idudugsong natin, doon sinasabi natin na ang kadiwa, hindi lamang yan na mukhang talipapa at parang palengke na may mga gulay na nakadisplay, mga karne, mga isda. There is a system that goes into this. Kaya, yung ang title natin, Would You Believe? Sapagkat kamakailan lang, this is just a couple of days ago, nagkaroon ng meeting po, ang Economic Development Group, which was, the meeting was headed by Secretary of Finance Ben Jokno, and together with the NEDA, Balisakan, silang dalawa, at ang nag-attend ng meeting na yan, halos buong kabinete, Department of Finance, NEDA, Department of Trade and Industry, Budget, Department of Energy, Transportation, Agriculture, DPWH, Science and Technology, pati ang Presidential Management Staff. At ito po, sinulat ko yung kanilang mga conclusion dun sa meeting na yan. Kaya basahin ninyo yung title ng ating programa na ng Crossfire, because this is now being fired cross in a way. Ito ang cruise na talagang nakikita natin nagliliyab ngayon sapagkat ito ang kanilang conclusion. Would you believe ito ang kanilang conclusion? and this is quoted from them, they are going to implement a high-frequency monitoring system for agriculture and other priority development programs. High-frequency monitoring. Walang programang isasagawa, walang project na gagawin at patutupad, ngunit imomonitor with high frequency. Yung high frequency na yan, parang nung panahon namin sa television at saka sa radyo, yung mga VHS pa yung naiintindihan ko dyan. Ngayon sa monitoring na gagawin nila, hanapin ninyong ibig sabihin ng sinabi nga dyan sa meeting na yan, high frequency monitoring system para sa agrikultura. Ang pangalawa, gagawa sila ng policy response. Sasagot sila at gagawa sila ng contingency plan. Hindi pa ito, it is still not on the table. Gagawin pa tungkol sa impact nitong El Nino. Halos patapos na rin ang El Nino. Itong hot season na ito, sa hapon ay umuulan na. Pero gagawa pa rin sila ng response dito sa ngayon. At yung pangatlo, yung sinabi nga nila, gagawa sila ng inflation mitigating measures that will be formulated by the Interagency Committee on Inflation and Market Outlook. So, parang ang daming salitang pinagsama-sama na gagawa pa kung ano ang makakatulong dito sa Interagency Committee na kanilang tinayo. At ang pang-apat na sinabi nila ay magfo-foster sila ng collaboration among the government agencies to achieve this economic growth. Would you believe na sa dinami-dami nitong mga nag-attend ng meeting na ito for the economic development of our country, yan ang kanilang naging conclusion. Now, would you believe may pupuntahan ito? Kaya nga, pinag-uusapan natin 1 taon na. At hanggang sa kasalukuyan, this is just a couple of days ago, this is still what they are planning to do, or if they've already done it, monitoring at response at yun. Walang direct na programa. Sabi nga ni Ado dito, yung ating maestro, imbes na tayo ay gumawa ng mga produkto na pwede natin i-export, ano ang binabandila natin sa mundo? Ang ating mga kababayan. Hindi sa, instead of the products that we're exporting, we are exporting the services of our people. At sinasabi nga, ewan ko ba kung saan ang galing yung kanilang the best, we offer the word the best. Merong isang pinakita na nurse na unang nagbigay ng vaccine na nagkaroon ng COVID. Ngunit kung titingnan niyo po ang ating mga ospital, maraming ospital na bakante by floor, hindi mga kwarto. For the 1 or 2 or even 3 floors ng kanilang ospital, walang tao. Walang nurse kasi. Yun ang sinasabi natin na kailangan itutugma natin. Ano ba ang ating ino-offer as the best in the world? Ibig sabihin, sa mundo ibibigay the best. Tayong mga naiwan dito na hindi nasa ibang bansa, hindi tayo best. I think the best should be here para dito tayo gumawa. Yan na, sagutin natin itong economic group na ito so that we could be productive. Yun ang mahalaga.
Translate natin yan.
Okay.
Yung aspeto ng monitoring, ang ibig sabihin ni Benjok, manunood tayo. Habang ang mga tao ay nagugutom at namamatay, nahihirapan sa kanilang hanap buhay, panunuorin natin sila.
That's the first. Imagine, implement a high-frequency monitoring system for agriculture. Yung monitor sa classroom, yun nagbabantay ko nag-cheating ka. Sabi
Depende.
mo, nagbabantay.
Depende kung anong mapanood natin. Tayo ay magpaplano para magplano. Uli. Contingency plan. Ha? At para sa inflation mitigation, pag-uusapan natin. At tayo magkukulaborate, pag-uusapan pa natin. In other words, ito yung tinatawag sa Robert's Rules of Order na if you want to kill something, you refer it to a committee. You refer it to a committee to study. Samantalang nung panahon ni Digong Duterte, biglang merong all government approach. Ang unang-una, tanda-tanda ko, sa national disaster. Kaya kung anong kapalpakan, mga kabansa, ng ating pagsalubong sa mga national disaster noong mga nakaraang presidente, lalo-lalo na doon sa Presidente Calvo, na si Noynoy Aquino, sumalangit nawa ang kanyang kaluluwa. No? Ay, ni isang disaster under Duterte, wala akong narinig na reklamo. Mula 2016 hanggang 2022. Pangalawa, all government approach to COVID. All government approach sa drug abuse. All government approach to the elimination of the communist armed conflict. Hindi na kailangan mag-organize na nandiyan na kayo, mga ulul. Nandiyan na kayo. Nagme-meeting kayo linggo-linggo. Wala kayong nagagawa kundi magplano ulit ng bagong agenda for your next meeting next week. Ewan ko kung naiintindihan ni Bongbong Marcos. Iniinsulto ka naman ito, Bongbong Marcos! Bakit? Sila naman magkakolaborate para gawin ang trabaho mo. Naiintindihan mo ba ang ginagawa sa iyo ng kabinete mo? Ewan ko lang, meron ba tayong pangulo rito? Meron ba tayong tagabigay ka lang yata ng emoluments sa iyong mga oligarchic friends? Before that, nandiyan naman, nakita naman, buo-forma ka, nagpa-picture ka. Mga windmills naman, kasama mo naman, mga Ayala. Nung isang araw, nung 2 buwan na nakakaraan, binigyan naman ng Aboitiz ng 17 billion na loan ng Land Bank of the Philippines. Para saan? Renewable energy. Pwede ba? Puro speeches, puro travel, puro bola. Sus Maria Jose.
Actually, the president is very busy. Araw-araw halos meron siyang meeting. Kausap niya itong mga taong ito. Yun ang sinasabi nga natin, we should have these people already working on programs of government. Ngunit hindi naman siya nagkulang sa pag-meeting nga sa mga tao. Ang dami-dami niyang kung saan-saan nga siya nagpunta. Pati mga governors na meeting na niya at lahat. Yung ang sinasabi ko, ito.
In fairness, Rita, fairness to our career service, I have a very high respect for our career service in government. Walang government agency na walang plano. Lahat ng government agency na yan, part of their function, meron silang director for planning. At walang ginagawa yan kundi every year, precisely what to do. They have been monitoring for the past year. They've been making contingency plans for a whole year. And they're looking for measures to correct.
So, anyway, exactly as was saying, totoo yan. The bureaucracy runs the way your watches run. Meron talagang rotor na yan. Now, whether you like it or not, lalo na yung mga relo na walang baterya, talagang just by the motion itself, it operates. That's the bureaucracy. Tama ka, Ado.
I will give an example. Si Frasco, ang goal niya, 2 million tourists. Meron siya plano. Maaaring hindi tayo nag-agree sa mga ginagawa nila. 2 million tourists sa China pa lamang. Alam nila, they have to get it. To be able to get it, however, 6,000 visas have to be ordered or process every day to make 6,000 times 365 days. That will give you more or less about 2 billion. Alam mo ba pinoprocess nila kayo, Rita? 100 per day. Paano hindi ka maka 300,000 tourists? Oh, and then we learn, Rita, na may problema pala ang Department of Foreign Affairs sa visa. And ngayon, naghahanap sila ng service provider. Oh my God! Ano ito?
Yeah.
Ganyan din ang story sa DOTR sa LTO. Wala kayong lisensya. Wala kayo, oh my God!
I think the facial expression of already says it all. Yan nga ang malungkot na nangyayari na sinasabi nga natin na but the president is aware of all of this. He knows exactly, he's fully aware, yes, of his high office, he has accepted that responsibility to God, to country, and people. Madalas niyang sabihin yan. He has narrated many of his plans already and his programs and all of this. And that is exactly the basis of all his meetings and the speeches that he delivers, all of this. And so, again, we look forward. And sabi ko nga, would you believe that we are still in that particular stage na naghihintay pa rin tayo sapagkat, sabi nga, it's not a honeymoon stage anymore. It is actually actual work that has to be done. Pero napag-usapan ni Ando, magsa-segue lang ako yan sa foreign affairs. Kung sakali mang nakikinig ang mga nasa Department of Foreign Affairs, birth of Muhammad in Medina, and then you have where the Kaaba, ngayon malapit na mag-Hajj. If this person has actually already been appointed, Renato Pedro Villa, to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, siya po ba ay converted Muslim or pinanganak na Muslim na iba lang ang apelido niya? Renato Pedro Villa, na ipadadala sa Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You know, a presidential secretary on Muslim affairs, Secretary Altila, brought this attention to me, and I have to bring this out. Parang ang sinasabi na bakit magpapadala ng non-Muslim sa Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Ang laking insulto nito, hindi lang insulto, pero sabi nga niya, parang magpapadala ka ng isang imam to represent our country sa Vatican. So parang ganon. So unless this person, this individual, Renato Pedro Villa, has been converted to Islam or is born Islam but has a different name, that doesn't sound like it's Maguindanao, Maranao, or Tausug, or whatever it is. I think the Department of Foreign Affairs should look into this. Nag-segue lang po kasi sinasabi nga ni Ado dito na kailangan yung atensyon ng Department of Foreign Affairs tungkol dito. So I'd like to bring that up. Please look into this because this is very serious. Do not insult half of the world's population that belong to the Islam religion by sending a non-Muslim to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Maraming kanyang kaso, Rita, sa Philippine Port Authority. Balita ko, ang pumapagagpak na ma-appoint yan ay si Roble. Nakatulad nung hindi natanggap na Pastrana, isang member of the shipping industry. Pero mo, PPA is a regulatory body for the shipping of ships. No? Ilalagay mo dyan, hindi stakeholder, stockholder ng isang shipping company. My God naman, huwag naman sanang ganoon, no? And then, mahirap na lang mag-deal sa chismis eh. But, pagka ganito ang, anyway, maghihintay na ako lumabas yung official list, Rita, as a concession to Bongbong Marcos. Ilabas mo na malaman na natin kung talagang may 5 tao na tayo sa court, no, sa ating basketball. Dahil ngayon, Tinatatakbo mo yung gobyerno, ang kalaban natin China pa, di ba? Kalaban daw ngayon ng China sa basketball. Sige. Eh, 5 yung player ng China doon. Ang tataktak. Yung isa, 7-footer pa. Oh. Eh tayo, ilan ang tao natin sa loob? 3. Oh. Puro undersecretaries pa. OICs pa. Sus Mario. Hindi ganyan. Hindi ganyan ang pagpapatakbo. Alam nyo, Mr. President, baka maghanap ng bagong coach ang taong bayan, ha? Itong nangyari na ito kay Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, maniwala kayo sa akin. Pag ito hindi nyo na control, dalawa lang ang tapatan na tayo. Dalawa lang patutunguhan yan. Ha? Either EDSA 2, mag-withdraw of support sa inyo, taong bayan. At i-appoint ang Vice President Duterte. Sara Duterte, nakapalit ninyo. Yun ang EDSA 2 model. May EDSA 1 model. At ito ay ang pagdedeklara ng revolutionary government. Ha? At pag EDSA 1 yun, at pag EDSA 1, baka bumalik si Digong Duterte. So, ito ay hindi
Speculations.
This is a product of my wild imagination. And perhaps you can say, my secret aspiration. Pero, huwag naman sana dahil mabababoy na yung ating demokrasya. Masyado ng ano-ano. Magpakatino na lang tayo, magsikap na lang tayo, tulong to. Sabi mo nga, sama-sama tayo, tiniiwanan mo kami. Bakit kayo na lang ni Rason? Kayo na lang ni Ayala? Kayo na lang ni Aboitris? Ang nagtotoast dyan? Ay, my goodness.
Anyway, so that is it. Would you believe that all of this is actually in front of us? And we are in that period of sufferance as far as many of these concerns. But as I've said, there is always the hope and the faith that we have in the highest office of the land. And as I've said, the president is aware. He has the members of his cabinet that he meets with almost on a daily basis. He is also in cognizance as far as our problems are concerned. Marami din siyang nabanggit na kailangan gawin. Kaya, would you believe na he has in his mind and in his heart, I would want to believe that he has our interest also at the palm of his hands. So, whatever it is, nabuksan natin yung 3 mga matatalinong mga dalaga natin, hindi naman dalaga, the 3 women who seem to be converging now. Nabanggit ko yung the beginning of Macbeth, pero siguro yun din sa Hamlet, to be or not to be rin ang ating sasabihin. And I actually wrote down the first lines there of that famous rhetorical piece that we were asked to memorize before, but it also applies to what it is now. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler for the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. Yun po, Mr. President. And by opposing, end them. So, we have our viewers, yes? Yung
Please read it. Nagluluko yung aking lens.
Okay, so Jingy Bill, magandang gabi po, Sir Adam, Ma'am Rita, watching from Germany. 6 hours in advance tayo. Naku, anong oras dyan sa inyo? 6 o'clock in the morning. Good morning. Mga galamay na kasamaan, hindi na naman makahintay at umaarangkada na naman sila sa mga pinaplano nila at ang masaklap na ikasabwat pa ata na nasa administrasyon ngayon. Lynn Mutasarco, watching from Bacolod City. Vincent Hendricks, no to EDCA, no to SB 1869. It's all connected to the
World Economic
Forum agenda. Nilda Gonzala, Lakas Boy, Benta Government Assets. Oy, naku po. Sem Japet, Dobre Alviar, disciplinary attitude, good taste, representatives, Nicanor Briones, background check. Bachelor Science Criminology degree, top, ayan na, pinag-uusapan na ito. disciplinary action. My profession, good taste, Representatives Nicanor Briones. So it's calling attention to this. Ella May, good afternoon po. Alejandro Patagnan, Romualdez will be out as speaker later on. The PBBM will be impeached later. Wife is involved in smuggling. So let's not go into those. Kasi yan po, wala pang verification yung mga ganyang mga sinasabi nga. Isang babae ang nagpapatakbo ng bansa natin. Oh dear. Dalia Blanca Flor watching from Hong Kong. Emerita Mendoza Nogueras watching from Japan. Bienvenido Tan, thank you po. Keep up the good, heroes don't die, heroes multiply. Let's have that. Lolita Santo, good evening po sa KDP. Oh yes, we have the photograph of our Sir Butch Valdes right behind us. He's watching us and I'm sure he would be talking really out loud if he were here now. Mary Geraldine Ang, continuity of corruption. Marivic Tamayo Floralde, watching from Hong Kong. Celia Roderos, watching from Isabela. LC Xiao, if this pretender has failed miserably to hit the ground running since day one, what makes you think that he'll wise up or wake up later on? Someone who's bereft of shame doesn't deserve our patience. Konting tiis lang po. Orlando Maltizto, good afternoon po mga ka-BBBM supporter unity, mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Indeed. Boyet Perrievas, good day mga Katipunan, tama po kayo dahil sa pagiging underdesign ng Pagli Junior, hawak na ito ng mga oligarko at lalo na ng mga puti. Hindi nga nagsisinungaling si Duterte noong eleksyon na huwag niyo iboto si Macoy Jr. dahil weak leader, may bagahe, nagpupulburon. So whatever it is, let us be a little bit more patient. Lord T. Vicky Zik, so BBM administration hasn't done anything at all. Those projects publicized by the public news outlets are non-existent. Hintayin po natin na itong mga binhi na ito ay umusbong na. Noel Rivera, good afternoon. Will BBM finish his 6-year term? The tea leaves do not appear to be in his favor. Naku po. Thank you very much. Ildefonso A. I'm a loyalist to his father, but unfortunately so far from what his father is. The basic needs like electricity, water, self-sufficient food is not being addressed. Always in the company of oligarchs. Yan po ang the reality on the ground. Remember the term oligarch. That is a Greek word which means the despotic rule of a few over the lives of the many. Yan ang malungkot po. Hindi po yan dyan basta crony. Pag sinabing oligarko, that is the root word. Despotic rule of the few over the lives of so many. So, yan po ang ating palatuntunan sa kasalukuyan. We're missing our partner, other partner, Itas Valdes. He has also other concerns, but we will be discussing when he gets back, the yung debt crisis na nangyari sa Amerika. Diyos ko po, malaking bagay yan. And of course, it will have its repercussions throughout the world. Be that as it may, would you believe? Keep on believing. There is one thing that is so important in our lives, and that is our faith. Our faith in God, our faith in our country, our faith in ourselves. Thank you very much, Ado. And of course, this is again our Crossfire, and this is Rita Gadi.